Good morning. I'm Cheri Beasley, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of North Carolina. With me today is McKinley Wooten, Director of the North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts. As a result of COVID-19, North Carolina state courts have operated on a limited basis since March. We have increasingly held more in-person court proceedings over the last 6 weeks, while we continue to encourage judges, attorneys, and the public to conduct as many remote hearings as possible. I want to thank our court officials and employees who have embraced this necessary change to our normal operations as we strive to limit the spread of COVID-19. Thousands of hearings have been held by teleconference since April, each one of them limiting the number of people who must enter a courthouse and reducing the potential exposure to COVID-19 for court personnel. I have also issued emergency directives requiring that courtrooms observe social distancing and limit the size of court calendars to avoid large crowds. Even so, since resuming more in-person proceedings in June, dozens of court personnel have contracted COVID-19. Just last week, courts in 5 counties had to be closed after a known exposure to the virus, and sessions of court in several other counties also had to be canceled. The truth is, we cannot entirely eliminate the risk of infection. The dedicated employees who work in our courts put themselves at risk every day in service to the public. I am so grateful to each and every one of them. And I am deeply committed to my responsibility to do all we can to protect their health and safety as well as the public. Every day we are informed that the number of COVID-19 diagnoses has increased. Many court personnel are greatly concerned about their safety, as are those who are immunocompromised. They are also concerned about the enforcement of safety measures. We must do more. And so today I am announcing 2 new emergency directives for our state court system in response to the COVID-19 outbreak in North Carolina. As you know, Governor Cooper recently entered an emergency executive order requiring face coverings to be worn in public places throughout North Carolina. State courts were exempt from this executive order. Even so, many local jurisdictions have implemented local face covering requirements, some of which have been in place for well over a month. We know from consultation with public health officials that face coverings are perhaps the most effective tool we have for slowing the spread of COVID-19. According to the National Center for State Courts, more than half of the nation's state court systems now have a requirement for face coverings in court facilities. Beginning today, North Carolina will join them. Face coverings must be worn in all common areas of North Carolina's court facilities with limited exceptions. Adopting this face covering requirement will help us reduce the transmission of COVID-19 so that our personnel remain healthy and ready to serve the public. I want to thank Governor Cooper, Secretary Cohen, and Director Sprayberry for their assistance in providing our courts with 175,000 disposable face masks and 21,000 cloth face coverings. The masks will help us to ensure that individuals who cannot afford to purchase their own face coverings will not be turned away from our local courts. These masks were made available earlier this week for courts to order using the judicial branch's usual supply order process. The second emergency directive I have issued today regards jury trials. In March, I directed that jury trials be postponed statewide, and that directive remains in place. This is consistent with what is transpiring across the United States. As of July 1st, only 4 states had resumed jury trials. I know that many of our local officials are anxious to resume jury trials as quickly as possible, as are victims, defendants, and other parties. Unfortunately, the percentage of people testing positive for COVID-19 continues to remain high. Hospitalizations have reached record number several times in the last few weeks, and new COVID-19 cases continue to climb. The data we have available indicates that it is not yet safe to resume jury trials without robust and comprehensive safety plans in place. Consequently, it is my intention to delay jury trials until at least the end of September while we work toward the safety protocols that will allow us to conduct jury trials as safely as possible. I'm directing local court officials to develop comprehensive plans for resuming jury trials safely. In May, I directed our COVID-19 task force to develop recommendations for the resumption of jury trials in North Carolina. I want to extend my deepest thanks to the task force co-chairs, Senior Resident Superior Court Judge Don Bridges and Chief District Court Judge Jay Corpening, as well as the rest of the members of the task force. They have spent weeks developing consensus around this very complex issue, and I agree with their assessment that local officials are best equipped to proactively plan for the safe resumption of jury trials in their own jurisdictions. The order I have entered today requires senior resident Superior Court judges to work with all local court officials along with county sheriffs and public health directors to develop comprehensive local plans for the resumption of jury trials. These plans must ensure that local court facilities are in compliance with all of my existing orders, and they must be informed by the best safety practices distributed by the administrative office of the courts. I remain deeply concerned about the continuing risk of exposure in our court facilities and about the public's willingness to serve on a jury as we continue to see cases of COVID-19 increase in North Carolina. According to a recent survey by the National Center for State Courts, a majority of Americans do not feel comfortable reporting for jury duty. If we are to ensure that the available jury pool represents a fair cross-section of the local community, the public must be confident that they can safely participate as a member of the jury. The development of these local plans will help to bring that assurance to potential jurors. Finally, I would like to take a moment to address the hundreds of recent law graduates who will sit for the North Carolina bar exam in just a few weeks. I understand that many of you are concerned about the threat of COVID-19 transmission during the exam. I hear you, and I get it. The role of our Supreme Court in planning for the administration of the bar exam in North Carolina is limited. Unlike in other states, our Supreme Court does not create the rules for admission to the bar. Instead, we review rule changes as proposed by the Board of Law Examiners. I understand that the Board of Law Examiners has consulted with the Department of Health and Human Services to craft a plan to make administration of the exam as safe as possible. This plan includes social distancing of at least 6 feet in all directions, requiring masks throughout the exam, temperature screening prior to admission to the testing facility, and many other precautions. I also understand that the board has approved accommodations for those who are immunocompromised and those who have requested them. I have been in contact with the Board of Law Examiners, and the board has seriously weighed all of the options. The board will continue to monitor public health developments in North Carolina and consult with DHHS in the time remaining before the exam. In the meantime, I sincerely wish each examinee success, and I look forward to welcoming you to the profession. At this time, I am happy to take any questions.
We ask our reporters on the line to press 1 if you have a question, and then press 5 if you have a follow-up. We'll take our first question from Brian Schrader at WRAL-TV.
The concerns from the bar applicants. Many of them have contacted us, and they've asked Governor Cooper about the situation, and they've been told that the governor has no authority about it. Who does have oversight authority over the Board of Law Examiners?
Well, the Supreme Court does not have oversight over the Board of Law Examiners. The Supreme Court does entertain proposed rule changes as offered by the Board of Law Examiners. those matters come before the court for review, and the court can either approve or not approve those rules as proposed.
Our reporters on the line, please press 1 if you'd like to ask a question. We have a follow-up question from Brian Schrader.
A quick follow-up here. Are you worried that because of the stakes with the bar exam only being given every 6 months, are you worried that even people who have symptoms are going to come and take the bar just so they don't have to postpone employment for another 6 months to wait for the next bar exam in February?
Well, remember that the Board of Law Examiners is taking safety precautions as they have determined are appropriate. It is the Board of Law Examiners who makes those determinations, and the Supreme Court really doesn't have jurisdiction over those decisions.
If we have any further questions, please press 1 if you'd like to ask a question. Not seeing any further questions at this time, Madam Chief Justice.
All righty. Thank you very much.